Guinness was in a while till out of time. We ruminate on all the threats we face, charting past the fortified data space. Strategies amidst the ping of imagination cries. Defense tools to meet the rising tide. Entrenched in digital subject. Every breach a lesson, each attack a call. And we seek safer horizons to protect us from the fall. As the year comes to full end, touch under the code to let others in. Introspect, tatted shadow often looms to life. Thoughtful, we secure today, but who knows how long it will last. In firewalls we trust, we push fears away, keeping threats at bay every single day. Stay neighbors to feel away. All these drops into verticals is seeing what's never say. This feeling enemy makes the tricks you one that can't be right. One that slip down today. Laughter and cheer. Together we'll conquer, joyful heart I hold dear. Value the lessons we learn, and this is brighter as the snow falls. We gather around the cold with screams of will protect our homes from the dangers that lurk in the digital storm. Stay sharp and be wise in this holiday surprise. Cybersecurity's our gift, keeping our spirits high with passwords secure. And to act on hand. We'll navigate safely through this wonderful land. Protections we choose in the season of giving knowledge what we use. Sparking the rope into fire of faithfulness. For the big and
Welcome to the weekly cybersecurity briefing. In the interest of making the best of everyone's time, cybersecurity briefings Mm. If you have any questions, please ask.
Good morning. It is once again 10 a.m. on a Friday. It is December 27th, 2024. Just a few more days left of the year. And today's cybersecurity briefing, we are going to do a little bit of a rewind on 2024, some of the things that I've observed over the last year, and what we can expect in 2025. So, I really was hoping to see a bit of a dip in cybercrime, but that did not happen. We actually saw a slight increase in cybercrime this year. What we did see is a little bit of a kind of march off the beaten path. In the past, we've seen almost, in the high 80 percentage of initial attacks take place through business email compromise. That has fallen ever so slightly, and bad guys are using some flaws in unpatched equipment to get in. Again, between the operating systems and, uh, public-facing, servers and such, uh, that number has gone up a little bit, which has pushed that business email compromise down a little bit. However, we're still looking that we are in the high 70s, percentage-wise of initial attacks. Again, all of this is kinda who reports what, because there's so much cybercrime that just goes unreported. Uh, these statistics just come from those that are. Interesting statistic this year, and I can't remember where I saw it, but it was, uh, a survey done by, an insurance company, and, they were looking at the percentage of companies that had a cyber event in the year that, and basically from 2023 to 2024. And of those that were insured, surprisingly, 60%, 60%, had some sort of cybersecurity incident. So these are people that are arguably doing things correctly, to keep their cyber insurance actually in a state where it will pay if they have an event. And yet they managed to, well, get a security event anyways. Now, a lot of these events didn't turn into major breaches just because probably things were done fairly well, but they still had an event. So keep that in mind, because I think in 2025, we're just going to see more and more of that type of scenario where we're going to see events. And, if you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you know that I'm always talking about prevention is key. Prevention is what we're after, but you really have to plan. You have to have a plan in place for when things happen. And if you don't have that plan, well, it can be pretty devastating to a small business. If you look at what the plans entail, just slight shifts in the way that things are done today can put a lot of resiliency into a small business in the event of an attack. So I really think in 2025 it's going to be more about, and I don't want to say that we don't want to do prevention. Prevention is key. We need to have prevention in place, but we really need to have the planning part coming forward. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see that in our insurance questionnaires. I know I've seen kind of indicators that that was going to be coming anyway. But now I just started to see a couple of the insurance questions started to ask about the planning and the incident response planning and some of the parameters around that. We used to see that a lot in the olden days around what we called RPO and RTO, which was the recovery point objective and recovery time objective, and that is dealing with backups. So it really was about, well, how much data will we lose if we need to pull from a backup to recovery point, and then recovery time? How long is it going to take to get everything back up? So they're starting to ask those questions a little more fervently again, to just see and get a kind of pulse on, I think, where the companies are in their planning. Um, And again, I think that's something that we're going to see a lot of in 2025. Just coming to the forefront, it's going to be very important that planning is done correctly. 2024, arguably, I'd say, is the year of the induction of all of us into AI. We had been using AI forever. A lot of things that you do, a lot of the applications that you use, they all use some form of machine learning, some form of artificial intelligence in the background. This year, I think really the cap came off the bottle, and we're able to actually use it at a different level. Now, here's the thing. I've done a couple of seminars on AI this year, and the questions that came out of them really were showing me that the understanding of how AI works and kind of its purpose inside of the company has massively changed in the last year as the understanding of the individuals has changed. For instance, when I did my AI seminar earlier in the year, the questions I got were more around the technical aspect. I like to call it Google advanced search, because a lot of people were using AI as just a advanced form of search. Whereas the last one I did last month, we're talking about very complex uses of AI inside of small business. And this is just, 9 months apart, primarily the same audience. So there has been just a proliferation of AI into everyone's view and has become part of their vocabulary. So I think in 2025, we are going to see some real use and some real efficiency coming from the use of AI in small business. So that's going to be exciting. On the other hand, we really need to understand, because AI, once again, it is very powerful. And because it's technology that's very powerful and it's technology that's very new, some of the safeguards we like to have in place in terms of security, as an example, aren't quite in place yet. Let me give you an example. I've seen time after time inside of, I'm just going to pick on Microsoft just because I've heard the most in implementing their AI technology, where if the data wasn't properly categorized inside of the Microsoft tenant. So in Microsoft, you have SharePoint and all these various CRM and Business Central. You have all these areas. These are silos of data. And if those silos of data are not properly classified, you could come in as a person that doesn't really have a lot of access to anything inside the system, and you can use AI to query things like what your peer salaries are, some strategic business initiatives, stuff like that. And it's not so much a fault of the AI being faulty in that it doesn't understand that. It was just a faulty implementation in that the environment wasn't ready for AI yet. The data had not been properly classified. And sometimes it hasn't been put into its proper areas, right? So if you have a company, you have departments within the company. Many times you don't want, for instance, your production to have access to everything financial, right? So each one of these are kept kind of within their own silo within the company. Those that need access to it have access to it. The AI has access to all of it in order to be effective at its job. So if it's not set up, if the environment's not set up correctly, well, we have some of the issues that we saw this year. And we saw some other issues. ChatGPT, Microsoft, they both had issues where their AI model kind of broke through the boundaries and was reporting on data from other tenants. So that was interesting. But believe those were quickly resolved and kind of contained, but it just exemplifies how, uh, AI having access to all of this stuff really is, I mean, it is a heck of a tool, right? But there's also a lot of danger with all of that power because, if it has unrestricted access to things, that means it's someone who has and very elevated privilege, or if you could fake the tool into thinking you have elevated privilege, you now have access to all of that. So, again, it's a very powerful tool. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of implementation in 2025 with AI. You just really have to be mindful about the data that it is exposed to, and if that data is potentially harmful if exposed outside of your company or even within your company if it's exposed to everyone. So these are things that we're going to be dealing with in 2025. Again, it comes back to planning. I think we're going to be doing a lot of planning in 2025. The next big one is Windows 10. So we have kind of a triple threat thing going on for end of life of Windows 10, which is next October. Now you can purchase, Microsoft did make available another year of extended support for Windows 10. I think it's a bad idea. I don't think you're going to be seeing the features. I don't think you're going to be on the right hardware. I just think it's a bad idea to even entertain that. And from what I've seen, some of the insurance companies think so as well, because there is exclusion around the extended support for Windows 10. But as of October, Windows 10 will no longer be able to be updated. Now, why is that important? Well, as you know, and as we talked about earlier in the show, the flaws within the operating system are one of the things that the bad actors are taking advantage of once again. So we don't want to have an operating system that has some fundamental flaws that isn't fully patched or is not going to be fully patched. If it's only going to receive security patches, those are you're still going to see some holes in there just because there's not going to be a lot of development with Windows 10 as there is with Windows 11. Second part of this is we have potential for tariffs next year. So come end of January, if we're seeing a 20% tax, and I'm just throwing a number out there because no one knows anything, but if we're going to see a 20% tax on computers, because the majority of them are manufactured in China, then we are going to have an issue with budgets. I know budgets were kind of being a little bit scarce this year in terms of purchasing equipment, but this equipment's going to need to be replaced. And the last time I saw the stats, we are way beyond the amount of equipment that needs to be replaced to support Windows 11 versus what our traditional manufacturer numbers are of equipment for next year. We are already at a deficit. So if you have those Windows 10 machines that are not upgradable to Windows 11, you really need to consider getting into the groove and either getting those updated before the end of the year, potentially for your tax write-off, which is the other third part. We may see Section 179 go away. If you know, you know. If not, that's wonderful. Hopefully it goes on. It's a big lifesaver for a lot of small companies in terms of some tax benefit. But if that also goes away, we're going to be seeing even more resistance to getting those machines up to Windows 11 where they need to be. So I would definitely consider getting that stuff into at least quarter one, especially if you're concerned about the tariffs. Maybe buy half of them or whatever you can afford in your budget. Get that done earlier in the year. But 2025 will be a year of upgrade. In terms of pushing everything to the cloud, Microsoft has made some valiant attempts in 2024 to push your desktop into the cloud so you can plug in with anything, anywhere into a secure system. Folks, we've seen this before. This is just a reiteration of technology we've had over and over again, starting with remote mainframes, and latest is the virtual desktop. It's the same. It's the same story played on repeat, and typically it doesn't work out great, just because you need to have really good connectivity to your desktop in the sky. Whereas if you have a computer with its own desktop, it's available to you right then and there. You can be on an airplane. You don't need to have internet connectivity. It's just all there ready for you right out of the gate. So I hope this was insightful. I hope you had a wonderful 2024. Looking forward to a fantastic 2025. We will see you next week. It'll be our first show of the new year. Thanks for joining me, and we will see you next time.